Tragedy strikes multiple times. We have 2 separate overboard incidents that mar the end of the year cruises, plus another tragedy at port. I've got the full story on these heartbreaking events, plus some crucial safety advice for all cruisers out there. Ahoy, travelers. It's Amy here with your weekly Cruise News Roundup and my thoughts on some of the biggest stories of the week. We have 3 Christmas cruise tragedies to talk about this week. Never something we want to hear. Our first sad story comes from Norwegian Cruise Line, where a 51-year-old man went overboard the Norwegian Epic ship around 3 p.m. on Thursday, December 26th, as the ship was sailing from Jamaica to the Bahamas. Now, as soon as the passenger went overboard, crew began deploying rescue boats and marking the area with flares, but with the sun quickly setting and reports of the missing passenger wearing a blue shirt, which blends into the waters, the search was incredibly challenging. They did have help from a nearby ship, a Holland America ship, but sadly, the search concluded without finding the passenger. Now, in a statement, the line said, the authorities were immediately notified and a search and rescue operation under the guidance and oversight of the Bahamas Rescue Coordination Center went underway. After an extensive search that was unfortunately unsuccessful, the ship was released by the authorities to continue its voyage. During the event, numerous people, including family members who were also on board, were keeping watch from the ship's deck. Norwegian Cruise Line has been supportive of the family and is working with authorities. My heart goes out to his family, especially those who were on the cruise with him. It's a somber reminder for all of us in the cruising community about the importance of safety measures on board. Now, I'm unsure of the situation surrounding this tragic event, but as I have said multiple times before, it is impossible for someone to just trip and fall off a cruise ship. The balcony railings are too tall. Most overboard cases are due to either an intentional act, too much alcohol, or horseplay. Bad decisions. Unfortunately, that was not the only overboard incident this past week. A woman tragically passed away after attempting to jump from the Sky Princess cruise ship last Saturday on the 21st while returning to Florida from a Christmas cruise. Now, a medical call was made for crew to respond to Deck 7, and the ship's captain made an announcement several hours later confirming that a woman had jumped from the ship, hit an obstruction, and later passed on from the injuries she sustained. In a statement, the line said, Princess Cruises is deeply saddened to confirm the passing of a 48-year-old American female guest who attempted to jump overboard earlier today aboard the Sky Princess. The guest fell to a lower deck where she was promptly rescued. Shipboard personnel immediately provided emergency medical care, but despite their best efforts, she could not be revived. Now, this incident has undoubtedly been a shock to everyone on board the ship, with the cruise line offering grief support services to passengers and crew. Now, these 2 cases bring the total number of man overboard incidents for 2024 to 19. Cruise Radio just put out an article reviewing all the incidents from this past year, although it was released prior to the latest incident on the Norwegian Epic. Now, this number is not unusual, as the average number of cruisers to go overboard in a year is 19. Now, I will say this again. There's no reason to be afraid that you will accidentally fall off a cruise ship. That should not be a fear of anybody. While I'm not saying that no man overboard incident is ever an accident, some are, but they are always involve some other factor like too much alcohol or some other bad decisions. Make good choices and you will be fine. Don't drink to excess. Don't stand on a balcony railing or sit on a balcony railing to get a selfie. And keep the horseplay off the ship. Now, I always feel really bad for any friends or family who are on a cruise with someone who makes that intentional decision to jump overboard. In my opinion, taking one's own life is already a selfish choice, but to do it while you're on vacation, ruining everyone else's vacation, is just extra selfish. I just can't imagine anyone who has had a loved one jump overboard ever wanting to go on a cruise again. Then choosing to do it right before Christmas, I understand that these people are hurting. I get that, but now their choice is also hurting others as well. Personally, I just feel like this would ruin Christmas and cruising forever for the family of anybody who makes these decisions. Or at least, I imagine it would be for most people. Now, the Christmas tragedies unfortunately continue with our next story. On Thursday, the 26th, an elderly cruise guest lost her life while visiting St. Martin on board an AIDA ship. Well, at least we think it's an AIDA ship. It's unconfirmed. There were 5 other ships at port. However, reports do say she was on the AIDA. According to authorities, around 5 p.m., they received a call about a tourist falling into the water from her electric wheelchair. Now, while reports are unclear as to the exact circumstances, it appears the electric wheelchair malfunctioned, causing the woman to fall into the ocean, and I only assume it was off the pier. First responders quickly arrived and performed life-saving measures, but she was unable to be revived. A statement from local authorities said preliminary investigation suggests that a malfunction in the victim's electronic wheelchair, an 82-year-old female, may have contributed to her fall into the water. Despite the best efforts of medical personnel to administer emergency resuscitation, the victim sadly succumbed at the scene. Now, this brings up a very real fear for people, maybe it's just me. If you were unable to swim due to an injury or other physical ailment and then were to fall off a pier for whatever reason, that's scary. There was a similar story a year or so ago. However, that one turned out much better, as someone who saw the individual go off the pier, I believe it was another elderly female, if I remember correctly, took it upon themselves to jump in and then pull her out of the water. So that greatly changed her chances of survival, and thankfully she didn't pull that person under, because that can happen too. Now, I can swim, but I am still fairly cautious while walking the pier from ship to shore and stay away from the very edge just in case I get bumped or I trip and fall. I am known to be a clumsy person. Now, I know I would be extra anxious if I was relying on someone or something else to transport me across the pier. If it does turn out that the wheelchair itself was to blame and there were no other mitigating factors, I imagine someone is getting sued. It's not clear if the wheelchair was a rental, was provided by the ship, or it was personal property of the victim. Now, our last story touches on the fear of having a loved one go overboard or some other tragedy befalling them while on a cruise. Even more so if that person is a child. So last Sunday on the 22nd, one family was put through the ringer when they could not locate their teen on board the Carnival Celebration. So around 4 a.m. on the 23rd, announcements were made across the ship looking for the missing teen. When an event like this occurs, it's all hands on deck for the crew, as every available crew member will then begin a thorough search of the ship, including private cabins. So luckily, this was a false alarm, and the teen was located, reports say, in another cabin where they had fallen asleep. Now, one cruiser said that their husband spoke to a security guard who said that it had been a 17-year-old who fell asleep in another cabin, possibly of someone that they were cruising with. Now, I can only imagine the panic of the family when they couldn't find their child. Now, at some point, I'm sure they would be worried about either a possible overboard situation or maybe even an assault of some sort. Now, if the teen was located in the room of someone in their larger traveling party, I actually find it hard to believe that the parents wouldn't have checked there prior to notifying the crew that their kid was missing. I think I would. How do you not contact everyone that you cruised with first? At the very least, I would think I would want to ask them where and when the last time anyone else in our cruising party had seen the missing child. Of course, the cruise line isn't revealing any specifics, which I completely agree with. They shouldn't. But it's just another story that leaves us where we don't have all the details. We have to speculate as to what actually occurred. Now, how would you react in a situation like this? If it really is a case of an honest mistake, maybe they were watching a movie with extended family or friends and fell asleep. If so, I would think the relief of everything turning out okay would, for many, override any possible reprimand that the kid would get. Personally, I think I'd be asking some questions when everybody calmed down, like, why didn't anyone think to call me? Why did no one say, hey, your child is asleep in our room, they're fine? Were there not any other adults involved? We may never know. Well, I hope everyone had a great Christmas, however you celebrate it. We had our main Christmas last Saturday with all the family, my brother and all his kids, and then Mom, Dad, and I opened our gifts on Christmas morning. I always do all the shopping for gifts from Dad to Mom. He gives me cash, I do all the work. Every year I will make comments while mom's opening presents like, Dad thought you would really like that, or Dad knew you needed a new one of those. Dad's like just over in the corner shaking his head. Yeah, I did. We all know. We all know. This year I got pretty tickled when trying to tell a story about a pair of slippers I bought for her because I kept substituting myself for Dad in the story. Now, of course, this is just part of the magic of Christmas. Mom knows that I do all the work. Half the time she's with me when I buy stuff for her, but it's just funny. It's just one of our traditions. But I do have to tell the story of the shoes that I bought her. So 2 years ago, I got Mom a pair of cloud slippers, and she loves them. She wears them all the time when she's walking around the house. So I wanted to try to get her a winter pair, that's kind of got fur in it, or sheepskin lining or something. And I searched and searched for something that would fit her long, narrow feet, which was a feat in itself. Most of the time, these lined shoes are shaped like clogs, and those are just going to be too wide for her. There's just no way. She'll trip and fall. I don't know how long I went through Amazon looking at shoes. A long time. I did it multiple times, kept going back, looking more and more. So when my niece and I went shopping for like Christmas stocking stuffers and last minute stuff, I was looking at socks to get her to wear with her current cloud shoes, since I just couldn't find any lined ones that I thought would stay on her feet. However, when I got home that day, there was an Amazon package waiting for me, and I realized I had forgotten I actually had found a pair and purchased them. I was video texting my niece as I opened them to tell her about having forgotten that I had already bought Mom some fluffy cloud sandals. And as I opened the shoebox, I said, "Oh, look, they came with socks." Then I realized that no, the shoes, like the manufacturer of the shoes didn't just throw in a pair of bonus socks for these shoes. Nope, these were shoes that someone had obviously purchased, tried on, and returned. And when they tried them on, they had done so with socks. Then they tossed the socks in the box. Yeah. They had someone's dirty old socks in there. I guess that's the positive, is that whoever did this, they used socks when they were trying on these shoes. So that's a good thing. But who's checking returns at Amazon? Is it Amazon, or this was through a third-party seller? Does it go back to the seller? I don't know, but come on. They must have just opened up the shoebox and go, yep, both shoes are in there. However, the tissue paper was wadded up at the bottom of the box instead of wrapped around the shoes. Usually they're wrapped around the shoes. You would have thought that whoever is in charge of checking the returns is supposed to make sure that the returns are repackaged correctly. And if they had, they would have seen the socks. Now, I heard there is a way to tell if you're getting a returned item from Amazon, something about how they're shipped. I'm not sure if that's true or not. These were in a shoebox, but the shoebox was then in a bag. And I don't know if the bag is part of the clue. Not really sure. I'm not opposed to getting an item that someone returned, as long as it's in new condition. I mean, I return things. I accidentally gave Mom a link to the wrong size phone case, and so she had to return that. That's not a big deal. I wouldn't care if my phone case, somebody had bought it and it was the wrong size. Clothes are a little bit different, and just seeing those socks in that box was just a shock for sure. Now, I received some really great gifts this year. I think everyone in our family now has a digital photo frame. I bought one for Mom last year, and we all just love it. So she has been buying everyone in the family the same branded frame, which allows us to easily send photos to each other's frames through just one app. Now, these new frames are so much better than those original digital frames that you could buy years ago. Mom had one of those too, but you would have to load all the photos onto like an SD card, and then you would have to put them in the SD card. So you had to have a computer. This is so much easier. You just literally on your phone, you click on the app, you choose the photos you want to send, you choose which frames you want to send it to. You can send it to everybody's frame all at once. It's great. Now, I've been enjoying all the photos that my oldest niece keeps sending me. Some of them are pretty hilarious. I also got other gifts, of course. I got candles, Bath & Body Works candles. I love those. Got a new necklace. I got a new bread knife. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And of course, my Silver Dollar City season pass for next year. So let me just tell you, I had no idea how bad my cheap bread knife was until I used this new one. It's like night and day. Now, I make my own sandwich bread, and I also like to make sourdough bread, and I just really needed a good knife. And if I had known how different, like a $40 knife, it's not like it's a $200 professional bread knife or anything, just a nice knife. If I'd known how much better it was, I would have bought it for myself a long time ago. Well, did you get any good gifts for Christmas? Anything you were surprised to get, or maybe that you really loved? Did anyone get a cruise for Christmas? Let me know in the comments. Well, are you ready for more information on cruising? You wondering which cruise line or ship to book next? Why not stick around and check out this video where we go over some 2024 cruise winners and then come back for more information designed to help you have an amazing cruise. Have a blessed week, everyone. I'll see you in the new year.